All right. All right, this is my planning video for my quadrilaterals lesson with Robin Watson, my mentor teacher. Don't worry about the camera. All right, so I'm going through, I started parallelograms today, okay? So tomorrow I'm doing 5-9. I did 5-8 today, I'm doing 5-9 and 5-10 tomorrow, so parallelograms and then like squares, rhombus, you know. So I have a plan for that. But Wednesday, I'm doing kites and trapezoids as well. So what I wanted to do, and I kind of asked around for the strategies teachers to see if they already did this, is like a foldable.
Yeah.
All right. With the 6, which would be rhombus, trapezoid, kite, rectangle, square, parallelogram. Okay, so it'd be like 6 little things that, you know what it is, the fold.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so, do you think that, give me
That's
some
a good
ideas
idea.
of.
That's a good idea. I probably should do that for my class too. Today we went over, I started on, I'm trying where you are, but today I looked at the big picture. We sketched them all.
Oh, nice.
We sketched one on the left. We sketched one together on the left, and then they had to create another one on the right. We went through each one.
Oh, okay.
And
did you do them one at a time? Like you do one as, oh, nice.
yeah, we sketched a trapezoid. I showed them one, and they had to clone it on their paper. And then they had to draw their own, which had to be different.
Got it.
And that way, I said, all right, that way you have to understand what trapezoidness is. And then we wrote down, we tried to summarize in the least words possible what makes a trapezoid.
But you didn't tell them first.
No, I didn't tell them
You just
first.
drew it and then had that.
Yeah, I actually animated, I showed them the second one, I animated it. And I said, all right, that's always a trapezoid. Can you study it and see what you think makes a trapezoid? And I didn't ask them for answers yet. Then I showed them this one here, and I said, all right, I want you to draw this one, clone this one on your paper. And then I asked kids, I said, hey, can you tell us what it takes to be a trapezoid? And then, before everybody draws their own, and then we kind of...
Before they drew their own,
Yeah.
before they cloned it.
Yeah, although some kids drew it. They already knew.
They already knew, especially if they're in strategy.
But at least we talked about it before I expected everybody to draw it. And so we went through one at a time. So it was the,
I like that.
the
So
big
that's
picture
like the
approach.
10 and 2.
Yeah.
So you've done, hey, no, you're fine. So you already did you already do, how is a parallelogram, a quadrilateral?
That's
so
the only one. That's the only one I've done.
Okay.
So this was the second. That was the first day, focused on
Okay.
parallelograms. And then today, stepped back and looked at all of them again. That might be my approach, just to come back, look at them all, then zoom in on one, come back
Right.
again, look at them all. I just know, it's heavy on memorization. It's heavy on, it's the subtleties, like it's the diagonal properties, the things that you don't see on the surface.
Right.
That seems like they need to know in order to do well on.
Like the perpendicular and the bisecting.
Yeah. Do well on the high stakes testing like the EOCT, and then the interim.
Yeah.
I heard had a couple of quadrilateral questions, even though
Yeah, we
we
hadn't
didn't
covered
expect
it
to
yet.
have yet.
Okay. I like this. Can I have this?
Yeah, I was trying to comment.
Yeah, I like this. And it's on GSP, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, because I think, so do you think if I did this and a foldable, that'd be too much? Not in the same day, like I do this one day?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that foldable is a great idea. That seems to be so helpful for them to keep it all straight, to remember what's what. They start to all come together.
Right.
I think when you do it one at a time, they understand the diagonal things make sense. They perpendicular, they bisect each other. But then,
Comparing and contrasting.
yeah, that seems to help.
Which is what they have to do on the test, on our test and the OCT.
You made our test, didn't you?
I did. Did you see I updated it?
I didn't open it, but I saw that you updated it.
Well, I emailed you as well, just to let you know, because remember I told you there were a couple of problems that I was like, ooh, these are kind of tricky. And that was the interior and exterior angles of a polygon.
Got it.
And
Hold up.
it was,
Show you.
yeah, and I used a lot of that stuff from last year, but I made this for the CPS for last year for the clickers.
Oh, is that what that's for? So is that Exam View that makes that?
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder where those came
Yeah,
from.
so those are from Exam View. And then these I got off of, something else that was on the shared drive, as well as those. So, but any of those multiple choice ones, I had a quiz for those guys last year that they did on the clickers.
Yeah, that's a good use of time, I think. Anytime you can set it up
Yeah.
and use the clickers.
I haven't done the clickers all year, which is
I've done Exam View in
sad.
the lab.
Now this one I had so not a rhombus is all angles are congruent, right? Okay.
Yeah. Looks like everything else is true.
Yeah.
To me, that's the defining characteristic of a rhombus.
Yeah.
They definitely need, I think, to get that, and then hopefully
Yeah, but they're picking the one that's not, which is also like the EOCT. And I didn't write that question, I got that off another thing on the shared drive. I know we spent, when I did mid-segment theorem last year, I did mid-segment of a trapezoid as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why we taught it that way. I mean, I was on with everybody else, but.
Yeah. It's a good play. Either way, it kind of makes sense.
And then I think this is a good one. And I got that from Exam View. This was the clickers thing, but that's to me seems like just like something they'd see on the EOCT.
Yeah. So these consecutive angles are supplementary. It's not enough, is it?
No.
So for me, visually, I just extend this line right here,
Right.
and it doesn't change those two.
Right.
Yeah. That is a good question.
Yeah.
Which brings back the point that it's such a visual unit that kids who aren't strong that as visual learners need, I think, like that flip book. I think
Right.
that's going to be a big help.
Okay, good. Well, I might introduce this tomorrow. Although I got to do the quadrilateral is a parallelogram. All right, I'll see how to get this guy in. Because what I was going to do is have them go through a worksheet right here. I was going to do this, it's like a graphic organizer, and have them, this was Glenda's, but have them do this, and then as a class, we'd go through this, and then I'd have them do the flip book,
Yeah.
or the foldable, whatever you call it, with each of the 6 on there, and then they would have to write down well, I'd have, quadrilateral, 4 sides, parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel,
Yeah.
and congruent, so then they put that into the foldable.
Yeah.
But I love this, I like this because it's like
It's
a
a little
discovery
different.
thing.
It's a little different, yeah. And they're
Yeah.
constructing it themselves.
Yeah.
Here
They
it's
love
already
that.
made. But this
And
is
it's
nice.
got the coordinate system on there. So all they need is different points, right?
Yeah, here, I'll show you.
So they could have the same size trapezoid as long as it was different coordinates?
Yeah, in fact, it had to be,
Oh, that is
it had to be
great.
different.
Parallelogramness.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
It is now. Here's how, let's hide that, delete that. So here's what they saw. Actually, I did start with parallelograms, but we'll do that. I showed a I animated that. I said that's always a parallelogram. If I'd had the
How
time.
did you just animate that? Oh, you clicked that button.
Yeah, if I'd had the time, I would have constructed it so that it stays in this area, but I didn't have time, so, because it takes a while to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But I just did that, and if it got off the screen, I just grabbed it. And I said, all right, this is always, look at me, I'm a pendulating parallelogram. I'm always a parallelogram. But what makes me a parallelogram? And then I hide that one, and we draw one, and I construct that one. And I try to make it easy because I want them to do the same one I did. So I said, look, we've used that point, opposite corners, and then just pay attention to how many spaces there are there. These slopes are the same. And then I walk around and make sure they drew that one.
Right.
And then I ask somebody, all right, you've seen this one, you've drawn that one, you've seen this one, what do they have, what makes a parallelogram? And then somebody will say opposite sides are parallel. Or they'll get close and you try to pull it out without giving them the answer.
we did that one, but I would see where you do it with, so I could start it with this one because we talked about this today, and they have homework on this. So like, okay, here's a review.
Very familiar with that one.
So then they kind of get the idea of the way that
And then here's
the activity works.
really the essence of being a parallelogram. And then I actually went through all of them, all 6, and
Wow.
then came back and did the diagonals. first I thought I was going to stay with the one thing all the way through, and then for some reason I went. It seemed like it was going well, having them construct that, so I left the diagonals out till the end, and then did it. But that's the tricky part. And then I use the analogy, it's like Shrek. You think you know parallelograms, just like you think you know Shrek, but underneath, you see that scary ogre, but underneath, you peel back the layers, there's this warm, loving husband and friend to donkey. So parallelograms are the same way. There's something going on underneath the surface. And talk about the diagonals. anything to kind of keep them engaged and get them to think about more than just the obvious.
Well, and I had a student last week, Friday, when we started talking about polygons, and we talked about some of the interior angles, and then we talked about how the sum of the exterior angles is always 360. And one of the kids is like my Xbox 360.
Yeah. Anything, any connection.
Well, and he was like, oh, nothing. And then I was like, what? I go, was it inappropriate for school? He goes, no, it was, I just said like my Xbox. I'm like, that's a great one.
Yeah. I'll clean it up and send it to you if you want.
Thank you. I like that. So you like the foldable too. They love to like cut stuff. And then I thought I'd have them use it for this worksheet here for this review.
Yeah. So those questions are tricky.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see. I haven't done that review yet.
Right. I mean, I completed it, but I didn't see congruent sides. I only saw sides, but I think congruent was supposed to be there.
Because in order to do this, you have to visualize so much in your head. And it's so challenging for some students who aren't visual learners. And so you would hope that they would maybe start sketching them, or they can see in their mind, they can see, they can remember like the kite. And I've showed this a lot too, the Parallelator 3000. And for some reason, like a rhombus, for some reason if they see that, if they see it moving like that, sometimes it's easier for them to bring back the idea that it's that the
Perpendicular diagonals.
I'm just having it's such a challenging unit. It's so much to remember, so much subtleties that it's really tough. Because even the accelerated class, some kids did horrible.
Really?
On those types of questions right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, they are tricky.
They are tricky. And so, for the non-visual learner, I don't know, it's just a lot of memorization. I would have a hard time remembering that. The congruents, the diagonals bisect each other on this one, on the parallelogram, on the rectangle they bisect and they're congruent. The whole diagonals are congruent.
Right. But not on a rhombus.
But not on a rhombus.
And on a kite, they don't bisect each other.
Yeah. That's a lot. And if you don't, for me, if I can't see it, there's no way I'm going to remember that.
Yeah. And the consecutive sides are congruent on the pairs of consecutive sides are congruent on the kite.
On the
right?
kite. Yeah. It's a lot.
And yeah, this one's tricky because you have to find the word that would replace it to make it true. But I figure if they have these things with them, if they make the foldable, then they'll have it with them, and also if they work together.
Yeah.
Then at least because when they work as a class, they always get the answer. And I try to keep promoting to them, but their inclination is always to ask me first.
Right.
What's the answer? I don't know how to do this.
I don't know, why is that? That they're reluctant to ask their neighbor before they ask you.
I don't know, maybe it's part of being a teenager, and not to make them sound bad, but they're kind of self-absorbed. You know what I mean?
They kind of want the answer right now. They don't have to work for it. That's part of it.
Yeah, that's for sure. The challenge is too much for them sometimes. But we started with consecutive today when we did the parallelograms and the consecutive angles are supplementary. And I said, what does consecutive mean? If I said that I was absent for 2 consecutive days, what does that mean? They're like, in a row. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. And I said it's like adjacent. Congruent's like adjacent in triangles, but I said these guys are opposite.
Yeah.
Because I said Monday and Friday would not be consecutive days. days, or Monday and Wednesday, I think is what I use, because you could technically say Friday and Monday are consecutive school days.
Yeah.
But they did that. When they can step away from the math, there's like so much. So many of them. Even I have this really bright girl in 7th period. Well, they're all pretty. You know, it's more motivation than it is a lack of ability.
Yeah. It is. It's definitely making it.
But I have a student, and I even asked her, I was like, were you in the gifted program in elementary school? And she said, yeah, because she gets this stuff right away. But when she volunteers an answer, if it's wrong, she'll say, oh, I'm stupid. And I'm like, no, you can't say that.
Yeah.
Or if somebody laughs, if somebody answers and I'm like, at least they're answering.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should be laughing if you're not answering at all.
You do have to like constantly work on keeping the culture of the classroom the right positive, so the kids aren't afraid, because some of those kids, it's they're so unwilling, so it's too risky for them to. They're so unaccustomed to having the right answer or being successful in math. I think so many kids were good at it in elementary school, and then middle school not so much, and then in high school kids so lacking in confidence in general.
Yeah. And even I had a student today in 7th period when we were talking about supplementary. I go, what's supplementary? And she said she works really hard, but she works herself up into a frenzy she gets a lot of test anxiety and stuff like that. So I was like, what's supplementary? She goes, they make 180? And I said, no, I want you to say, they make 180, Miss Fish. So then I kept going back to her each time that we had that, and I go, what is it? And she said, they're 180. I go, that's right.
Yeah.
Still like, I don't know. Any kind of a little tread that'll make them feel a little bit better. All right, well, thanks. Thanks for sending me that, too.
Yeah, I meant to get like the pictures of some real kites and put those in there, and